The word planet should be reserved for the small number of truly important things in the solar system.
The Interplanetary Podcast. The exploration of space for the benefit of all mankind. Your hosts here in London, Matthew Russell and Jamie Franklin.
Oh, yeah, baby birthday boy Brown.
Mike Brown. How I Killed Pluto and Why It Had It Coming.
Yeah, Mike Brown, the planet killer.
Wow.
2 birthdays today, Jamie.
Dos anniversaire.
Do
you like that? That's trilingual.
Dos anniversaire. Yes, John Couch Adams. Couch still being my favourite middle name.
Amazing.
Very laid back kind of chap. I believe you made that joke last time.
Good.
Yes, the Cornish mathematician and astronomer basically sat down, did a few calculations and said, crikey, there should be this enormous planet round about here, but didn't really think that he should bother astronomers with it because they were busy with other stuff, and was pipped to the post by Urbain Le Verrier.
Oh, come on.
Who made the same calculations at the same time to discover Neptune.
Ah, Neppers. Often
The old Neppers.
Forgotten, but I tell you what a beautiful planet.
Go to our Neptune special, of course, to hear more about John Couch Adams and Urban Le Verrier. In a very similar way, Mike Brown, whose also birthday it is today.
Happy birthday.
Proposed that there is a Planet 9 using a similar mathematical technique.
Planet 9. There we go.
So he killed Pluto, but may have another big planet for us to take a look at.
Well, I'm all ears.
Couple of legends.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, boys.
Not been much going on, is there, in the space world this week?
This week? Virtually nothing. What a week. What a week for Elon Musk. What a week.
Love him or hate him, he's had a good one. Wow.
Well, of course, last night he was launching more and more Starlinks.
Yes, he was. He was not resting on his laurels.
No.
Incredible. I mean, people are talking about the younger generations being inspired. That's how you do it.
Big time.
I was loving looking at Twitter at seeing all of the young kids surrounded, just completely engaged, looking at the screen at what was pretty historic. It's
really historic, actually. I mean, it's incredible what Elon Musk has done in such a short space of time. And what's incredible is, as we're recording this, Jamie, this is the 10th anniversary. June the 4th, 2010 was the first flight of Falcon 9.
This is right.
And
absolutely incredible.
So within 10 years, he's sort of replaced so many things. You know, it was a picture-perfect launch for a start off. Everything was just beautiful. But it is now grasped from the Russians, who were essentially sending, as we said last week, people were going to space in the same vehicle, roughly, that was used 60 years ago to get the first person into space. And it's only China with the Long March 2B that had another vehicle that was able to take people into space. I mean, what a ridiculous situation we had. But yes,
absolutely.
And it's just beautiful, isn't it, to watch old Bob and Chunky sitting there in their capsule, and there was some. I thought the best bit was all that kind of communication from the capsule, and the fact that they were able to really clear pictures and talk and move about, and we could see the inside of the capsule, and it looked like
see their floating dinosaur.
Yeah, the floating dinosaur, which according to George is a map, because as we know, the Earth isn't a globe. And it isn't flat. It's in fact in the shape of a dinosaur. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, Dinosaur Earth. And the sequined dinosaur was in fact a map of the Earth, the only way to successfully navigate the complex gravitational field.
Well,
fact.
God damn.
That is a fact,
Boom.
Jamie. And of course,
it's a real fact.
One of my favourite photos from the whole thing has been a picture of the worm with the return burn.
Yes,
it's on the barge, and as it was coming in, a picture of the worm itself against the charred background of the rocket booster, and it just looks brilliant. And it's already, I know, the wallpaper on billions and billions of rocket fans' mobile phones.
You inspired a movement. It's incredible.
Yeah, really, really cool. That's it now. Human space launch has become remarkably cheaper, remarkably more reliable, remarkably more sustainable, 100% US made, and it's commercially sustainable as well. I mean, in every way, this is a complete success story for NASA and for SpaceX and really the American people. And goddamn, do they need it right now?
Oh, we really, really do need some positive stuff. I think it's incredible. I mean, you know, this is what happens when people can come together and work, right?
Yeah. Well, it's often around one person's vision as well. I mean, Musk totally, his kind of hustle and legal wranglings that managed to secure that first commercial orbital transportation service contract from NASA way back in 2006. You know, he really had to fight for that. And that was just to give 3 demo flights of this new rocket he was proposing, the Falcon 9. And the US taxpayer gave him $278 million at that point to say, go on then, you go and develop a rocket. That is not a lot of money really for this kind of thing. And so he started, a little bit more money came in as well to sort of help develop other parts of the Dragon and things like that. But the big chunk of money came in when NASA could see that Falcon 9 was serious, and they said, well, I tell you what, if once you've done these demo flights, we're going to give you $1.6 billion to resupply the space station 12 times. How do you like them onions? And of course, he went, I love them onions. And of course, that gave him the confidence to develop this rocket, knowing that the finance was there to do it. Because what's incredible about this is once he developed Falcon 9, that those first few demo flights, the whole thing had only cost $300 million. And NASA, in the same year that SpaceX sort of announced how much it had cost them to build, their own analysis said that if then in their normal way of doing business, if they'd used the cost plus way that they'd been doing business, it would have cost the equivalent of $3.6 billion to do the same thing. So that, if you think about it, that's $3.3 billion saved that would go back to the taxpayer, back to the US taxpayer. That's hospitals and God knows what else. It's worth of money when you start thinking about it in terms of like the human money. It's insane. So just on that front alone, it's incredible. And remember, Jamie, back in 2012, 2013, when I used to post on Facebook all those hopper tests, I think everyone thought I'd gone a little bit mental. Because,
they still a little bit.
But that, I mean, see, that's all that's going on as well. So he's doing this at the side, going right. I'm going to make this even better. So do you want a rundown of some of the most amazingly? Actually, before I go on, it's worth saying like a couple of things here, because people like Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan, those types, they were not fans of Elon Musk. When Barack Obama cancelled Constellation, they were deeply concerned that NASA were going off in this commercial direction, and they were saying it's going to make it cost longer. It's going to make it cost more. It's going to take longer. But they were just plain wrong, weren't they? They were just plain wrong. It's when you look at SLS, that's still not ready. And that was, essentially the Constellation program changed, and and as we've just heard, the cost is just ridiculous. It
really is.
But I tell you, who got it right? Buzz Aldrin was always a fan, so he was always a kind of Muskite, as it were. So it's interesting,
Buzz,
isn't it? Yeah, and it's also
it really is.
It's also interesting to note that that the Falcon 9 has, not only has it ripped Russia's dominance of human spaceflight up, but also stolen Ariane's dominance, Europe's dominance in commercial
Yes,
space.
I know.
And
Damn it.
there was an amazing Jonathan Amos, the BBC reporter, retweeted a article he did in 2012, an interview with Elon Musk, where Elon Musk is basically warning Ariane, going, look, if my rocket's loads cheaper than Ariane 5, unless you do Ariane 6 and you make it quick and you make it as cheap as mine, you're doomed. And everyone sort of was just laughing at him. But like 8 years later, he's not only right, but right in spades. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, yeah. So do you want to...
He played the long game. Fair play to that.
Yeah, it's not even a long game, and he was just you know.
Well, too in space. In space, it's not the long game. Is it?
You build a cheap rocket, and I mean, I don't know what Ariane and ESA and Europe are going to do now to catch up. I mean, the fact that last night was a boost that had been used 4 times already, and NASA and ESA haven't even started testing reusability yet. We're just miles behind. So it's looks like, I mean, that's a huge shift, isn't it? Ariane was killing it in commercial space. You know, it's when you look at how many satellites have been launched by Ariane, it's over half, and suddenly that has now switched to just one dude and his rocket. You know, it's like he's wrestled it from a whole bunch of nations, and it's just gone to one dude, some business tech dude, some crazy South African. And and wow, it's just my word. So some notable flights then, Jamie.
Let's do it.
Because these are cool. So June 2010, exactly 10 years ago, the maiden flight of Dragon 9.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, of Falcon 9 with a Dragon. Actually, did have a Dragon capsule on it. December 2010 was the COTS C1 Dragon demo flight. Then, a couple of years later, it was the first of these resupply missions to the International Space Station, CRS-1.
Yes.
3 years after that and 6 successful missions, we did have the first bump in the Falcon 9 schedule, where
CRS-7
failed. Some support strut somewhere gave way, and the whole thing disassembled very quickly.
God, that's gone quickly.
2014 was the first controlled descent into the ocean. So we were starting to see them attempting sort of bringing these things down by rocket propulsion. December 2015 was the first successful landing at a launch pad and the maiden flight of Falcon 9 full thrust.
Full thrust.
So it flew up and they managed to land it and stick it down on a pad nearby. Incredible. April 2016, Of Course I Still Love You.
Oh, Matt.
Managed to catch CRS-8. But here's the really big bump in SpaceX's schedule.
The rub.
Was the Amos 6 disaster.
Oh, yeah.
Where, yes, the satellites blew up while on the launch pad. The whole thing.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
Absolutely awful. March 2017, however, saw the first reuse of a booster. So remember that CRS-8 that had landed on Of Course I Still Love You? It was flown again, it landed again, and then was retired because it was so important as an artifact, I guess. Block 4 came out in August 2017 for CRS-12, and then 2017 September. This doesn't seem like 3 years ago, does it? When SpaceX launched the X-37B. Have we really been doing this for this long, Jamie? This is crazy, isn't it?
It's mad, isn't it? I remember.
And then January 2018 was the mysterious Zuma launch.
Zuma. Keys to my bimmer.
Totally successful launch for SpaceX, but everyone said, oh no, Zuma failed because of some adapter that was holding it in that was the fault of the manufacturer. But who knows? Zuma was a very secretive military payload that cost over $1 billion.
Well, Matt, let me jump to one of my favourite
Yes.
dates. February 2018, Falcon Heavy putting a Tesla out to Mars.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
One of the most iconic things to happen in space in the last 10 years.
Yes,
Yep.
tick.
March 2019, Crew Dragon Demo 1. So that went up to the International Space Station with a mannequin on board.
Yes.
Then we had at the beginning of this year, we had the really, really cool in-flight abort where they just blew the whole thing up and saw how it worked. And then, of course, this week we had the marvellous Crew Dragon Demo 2. Again, everyone was excited. So many people on Facebook and Instagram, all my friends who aren't normally interested in space, tweeting about it and sending me WhatsApps like, Matt, have you seen that this is happening? It's like, come on.
Yeah.
I love that.
I know, yeah.
It's just like, did you know that this was happening?
Yeah. Are you watching this? Yeah.
I might be. Yeah, so hats off.
Incredible.
Hats off to Elon Musk. What an absolutely incredible ride he's given us with the Falcon 9. 10 years of Falcon 9, Jamie.
Congratulations. 10 years.
10 years.
Congratulations.
What a
feat.
What a feat.
What a feat.
Happy 10th anniversary, Falcon 9. Yes. Jamie, do you want to hear the science story of the week? The one that I absolutely bloody love.
Please. You love this one.
More than life itself.
If there's anything that gets you out of bed in the morning, it's quarks, isn't it?
Oh my God, it's quarks. Funnily enough, I did actually add the that soft cheese. That's called quark, isn't it? To a spaghetti bolognese yesterday, because I noticed the tomato was just a little bit too acidic. So I got some quark and added it in, and oh my God, it made my spag bowl proper tasty.
Wow, there you go.
So,
who'd have
thought that? Who'd have thunk?
Chef Russell.
So yes, Jamie, I think I'm going to take this right back. I'm going to do this really simplistically because I just think it's just incredible, really. So let's think about the classical view of the atom. You've got this little nucleus in the middle. That, in the case of hydrogen, might just be a single little proton, and then this electron whizzing around the outside. Most atoms, of course, are protons and neutrons with the same amount of electrons as protons whizzing around the outside, right?
This is it.
Yeah. But one of these, when you see the kind of textbook atom, that's what it looks like, the classical view of the atom. It's a little bit more complicated than that, of course, in the quantum world, where where the electron is really a cloud of probabilities and things like that, rather than distinct electron orbits. But let's stick to a kind of more classical view, because I think it kind of helps with this. Although all these processes rely on the Pauli exclusion principle and stuff like this. So it's all pretty crazy. But so the Rutherford kind of model, we've got this nucleus, this proton, say, and this cloud of electrons. Now, if you had a proton the size of a football, or the nucleus the size of a football, then the cloud or the electron would be whizzing around at the size of a very large football stadium. So if the atom was the size of a very large football stadium, the actual nucleus itself is only this tiny football in the center, right? And the electrons are this cloud of probability taking up the entire large football stadium, right? So unlike unlike the football stadium, of course, this is where the analogy is a little bit crap, because unlike the football stadium, most of the mass is concentrated in the football, and only a tiny amount of the mass of the atom, and I mean tiny, is whizzing around the stadium itself. So basically, all matter is virtually nothing. Nothingness is stadium-sized, and the solid bit is the football in the middle of a stadium. So even when you're touching a table, it's mostly nothing, and it's only kind of.
This reminds me of what's that film? Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, carry on. So it was very funny analogy, very similar.
Well, if you remember, we'll slot it in.
I will. I'll try.
I want to talk about neutron stars, because there's been a kind of exciting, not discovery, but an exciting bit of evidence that has come up. So neutron stars, they're huge stars. They're originally just huge stars, and they need to be at least 8 times bigger than the sun for them to become neutron stars eventually. So what happens is they use up all their fuel. So that, as we know, the sun is burning up hydrogen and turning it into helium. The energy from that nuclear fusion pushes back on the gravity of the star collapsing. So imagine the sun is very, very heavy and the whole thing wants to just collapse down under gravity, but the nuclear fusion is pushing it all back up. So you've got this beautiful balancing act that keeps the star going, right?
Yes.
But there is a point where the fuel starts to run out, for example, and then you don't get as much push. And then you get this thing where the star starts collapsing in and then it heats up and then it's able to actually burn more fuel and you get the push back again. So it's not quite as simple. There's quite a lot of kind of balancing acts going on. But there is a point when the whole thing starts to just collapse and no longer this nuclear fuel is not supplying the energy to push back against this collapse. And so it all collapsed down to the electron degeneracy pressure, right? So this is this point where you can't squeeze it together any further. And that's like you've pushed all the football stadiums right up to each other, right? So now the football stadiums are all touching and they're all crushed up against each other. Right. Remember, this is an analogy. It's not quite like that. It's wrapped up in more sort of quantum physics. But you can imagine that that's kind of where we're at now. So the star has collapsed down, and all the football stadiums are all pushed up against each other. Right now, that barrier, which is the electron degeneracy pressure holding it up now, that barrier is what's responsible for white dwarfs. So if a star sort of at the end of its life collapses down into a white dwarf, that's where it's stuck, right? But if a star is bigger than those that cause white dwarfs, the mass overcomes that barrier. So the stadiums themselves start to get crushed together. And of course, as this thing collapses in, the temperatures just rise to this ridiculous level, which is 1,000,000 times hotter than the surface of the sun, right? So, and under those kind of temperatures and pressures, the electrons and the protons can actually combine together to make neutrons, right? But as they do that, they release this huge flood of neutrinos, which is why we have these neutrino detectors all around the world, those beautiful structures of, that we were talking about a few weeks ago in Japan and places like that, were just amazing. And you can test and you can see these neutrinos flood off these events as they happen, right? So this massive release of neutrinos. But the next barrier, of course, comes down to now we've crushed all the football stadiums. We're now coming down, so all the footballs are next to each other, right? And all these footballs, these nucleuses of the atom, are now just neutrons because all the protons have become neutrons because they've absorbed these electrons and put out billions of neutrinos in the process, right? So now, instead of football stadiums all crushed together, we have all the footballs all crushed together, right?
Oh, God.
And the only thing that's now holding that up is the neutron degeneracy pressure and the strong force, right? So you could kind of see that like the air in the balloon, air in the football, and the leather of the ball, right? So it's like the air and the leather of the ball are holding it up now. So now we've got this intense pressure. Now that's where we're at with neutron stars. You basically got neutrons all next to each other, which is a bit like which is, I suppose, a bit like the nucleus of an atom, But instead of if you've got something like iron, which has got 56 protons and neutrons in the center, right? A neutron star is an atom with 10 to the 57 neutrons, which is which is 1,000,000 septillion. 1,000,000 septillion neutrons. That's a lot of zeros. That's a lot
that's big.
Of zeros.
Matt, let me ask you a question. Is it heavy?
Like you would not believe. So the normal...
Could I do 10 reps?
No. So...
Definitely not?
Well, The normal thing is to think of it as a teaspoon weighs 10 million tons. So a teaspoon of neutron star stuff weighs 10 million tons. But imagine if you've got a grain, like a grain of sand sized, just one tiny little grain of neutron star. The Falcon 9 would not be able to carry that into low Earth orbit. It wouldn't be able to take it. So it'd be like...
I love that stuff.
Yeah, so you'd put this tiny grain of sand on a Falcon 9, it just wouldn't be able to take off. That's it, done. That's how heavy this thing has become. And if you think about it, it makes sense because you've removed the stadium of nothingness and you're just down to the heavy bit. You're just down to all the heavy bits all touching each other. But here's where this new paper comes in. So there's a new paper, Evidence for Quark Matter Cores in Massive Neutron Stars. So this is the cool bit, right? So we've just covered the background. So according to a theory within quantum chromodynamics, there's a distinguished professor called Edward Shuryak back in 1980, and he proposed that once it gets dense enough and you're pushing down hard enough on these neutrons all stuffed together, that should collapse eventually, like a burst football, and you end up with this soup of quarks and gluons, right? And that's actually been proved to be true in things like the Large Hadron Collider. They've managed to see this happen, but there's been no evidence as yet that this happens inside neutron stars. But you can imagine, like, the core of a neutron star must just be one of the most intense places.
Right.
So this paper uses quite a few interesting things. So remember on podcast 151, we talked about how they discovered a huge neutron star that if it got any bigger would actually bend space-time so significantly it would become a black hole, So it's like on the edge. And so you've got these huge neutron stars. And what they're saying is that your normal neutron stars probably only have neutrons all the way down to their cores. But these bigger ones, of which we haven't really seen that many, but the ones we have seen, they've been able to look at sort of tantalizing evidence that actually they probably do have this quark soup core, and it might actually be quite a significant size of the neutron star in itself.
Isn't that a subgenre of metal in Norway?
Quark soup core.
Yeah.
Well, if it isn't, it should be.
If it isn't, shout out to the Norwegian teenagers.
Big shout out.
See what you can do with that genre.
Emili Anala and the team in Helsinki, they've been using the gravitational wave information. So when there was that neutron star merger called GW170817 back in 2017, again, something that we talked about on the podcast because we've been doing this so long now, Jamie.
Veterans.
Was the first ever neutron star merger, and it was detected by LIGO and was one of the most remarkable events in astronomy so far. But as they orbited each other, these enormous objects, obviously the gravitational fields around them pull and push the other one loads, which causes them, I guess, to ring like bells. So we're back into kind of acoustics of these things. Now, these sound frequencies that sort of vibrate through these enormous objects can be seen in the gravitational wave signal. If using, like, God knows how. I mean, we're talking serious bits of maths and computational science and just enormous brains and just the fact that humans are able to do this just shows what a remarkable species we are. But they can they can see the sound frequencies within the gravitational wave signal, and they've been looking at the maths of what should happen to the speed of sound, for example, in different materials. So if it was made from normal neutron star stuff, what would the speed of sound be doing? And if it was made of quark soup, what would the speed of sound be looking like? And basically what the data seems to suggest is, unless the speed of sound is reaching light speed within these stars, then it's more likely that it's actually this quark soup that's creating these effects. So it looks like there's pretty good evidence that the massive neutron stars have got these huge cores of quarks and gluons, not even neutrons anymore. It's even more ridiculous than that. And of course, that's like the very early start of the universe where there was the quark epoch. And
correct.
so hopefully this knowledge will help us sort of delve even deeper into the start of the universe. And of course, more and more neutron star mergers are being discovered by LIGO. And so the results should, over time, become more and more accurate. And so we're looking at, this gravitational wave discovery. LIGO, it is going to be the gift that keeps on giving. This is the golden age of astronomy.
Just getting better and better, isn't it?
It really is. And
wow.
And in the meantime, I saw a preprint of a paper by a team led by a PhD student called Adele Goodwin, who'd been watching a neutron star feeding off an accretion disk of material that it had stolen off a nearby star, and then convert that over 12 days into this burp of X-rays. So like this neutron star eats the accretion disk, then burps out an X-ray. And the energy that this X-ray burp has is more energy than the sun puts out in 10 years.
What?
So these objects are incredible objects. Neutron stars are, the more you read about them, the more absolutely insane an object they are. And the fact that they exist, and the fact that we can see them, and the fact that they were theorized and everything, and the spins, and how, these like objects as heavier than stars, but as small as cities, spinning thousands of times a second, burping out X-rays. Incredible. Love it.
Matt, let me say something to you.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on. It's coming. Just incredible.
All this excitement, though, has been nothing to the excitement that was happening on the Patreon channel.
Oh, my God.
So I'm going to play you some little snippets that Jon Benac, one of our absolute legendary patrons, who is also the director of Advanced Concepts at NanoRacks, which is...
Well, of course he is.
Well, big time. So he's a space legend in his own right, and I will get him back on to talk about NanoRacks. But this is his own little personal adventure, and as he says, it is not endorsed by NanoRacks, but he just decided to get in his car, buy a canoe, get in his car with his dog, and drive down to Boca Chica. Do you want to hear what happened?
My God, I really want to hear what happened. Let's roll it.
It's so cool.
The Interplanetary Podcast, putting the ace back into space.
So, I am somewhere off of Boca Chica State Park. The sun has definitely set. There is some light yet, some afterglow. I've got my trusty spaniel Hoodoo. There's a half moon above me. I've got SpaceX office facility in front of me, all lit up. To the right, I can't see it anymore, but there's a Starhopper, test area. Serial number 4 is not there because a couple hours ago it went kablooey, and so it's not even on the horizon. I don't know if the explosion toppled it or if they pulled it down afterwards, but it's just Starhopper, which the stainless steel lit up in the sunset for a couple minutes. It's been a great paddling trip. I feel strong. I had a Dairy Queen grilled chicken salad. Been tons of birds. There have been so many fish jumping that, some chance that a fish is going to jump into my canoe. And if a fish jumped into my canoe, I would eat it tonight. So I'm going kind of close to the shore, and there's mosquitoes Wonder if I were further out, if there wouldn't be mosquitoes. But fortunately, I packed some bug spray, which happens to be in the box right in front of me. So this body of land beside me on the satellite image has some car tracks. So I know that the ground is firm enough for me to pitch a tent. But I really like the idea of camping on an island. So I'm going a little bit further south in this, I guess it says South Bay on the map. Ooh, lightning on the horizon. I'm going a little further south because there's like an island that, looks the same as the land with the tire tracks. So, I've never been out here, and so I don't really know what to expect. I decided to come out here just a couple days ago. I've wanted to come out here for a long time, and I watched all the Launch America stuff. I guess it was yesterday? Yeah, or Wednesday, I don't know, a couple days ago, and when that launch got delayed, I thought, how cool would it be this weekend if I went to Boca Chica and was able to stream the launch from there. Right now I've got one bar, E. Hello, sir.
Hello, John. Yeah, I'm phoning you because obviously you're doing your absolutely awesome road trip. What on earth made you do? What on earth made you suddenly think I've got to go down to Boca Chica?
Well, I've been wanting to come down and see Starship for a while. I like getting out in nature anyway. This is a bit further than I would naturally go, just on a whim. It was a 6-hour drive, but there's not. Yeah, so I was thinking about coming down, and then when the flight got delayed to the weekend, I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool to watch the flight from Boca Chica? So
wow.
My wife was happy to, have the excuse to go visit her family, and she encouraged me.
Wow. So you got a 6-hour drive.
Yeah.
And then
what
did you do?
So I left, I work, and I had a couple of Skype video calls with coworkers on the drive down, and I told them, I was like, hey, I'm going to Boca Chica. They're all pretty excited. And then we did our work calls, and I just put in SpaceX launch facility into my GPS. And my plan was to go there and then drive around until I found a place to put the canoe into the water. Because when I looked on the map, there's places here where I can be. But when I got to the road, Highway 4, there was a police officer stopping cars. And there I am with my canoe on top. And there are all these other cars coming in. So I pulled up, and he's like, are you going to the beach? And I was like, yeah. And he said that everyone else was SpaceX employees going in for a shift change. So I pulled out my atlas. So I parked, and I pulled out my atlas, and I brought it up to him. I'm like, I'm not really going to the beach. I'm going to Boca Chica State Park. And he's like, no, you can't. You can't go to any of these places. So I showed him on the map, there's this place called Port Isabel that's, 5 miles north. And I told him, I was like, well, you think I can go there? And I don't think he really cared about what I was saying or what I was doing. He's like, yeah, sure, just go somewhere else. So I drove around and, tried a couple places, couldn't find a place to put in. Because obviously I wanted to be as close as possible. So I found this old rundown marina where, there was no gate or anything, and this dingy boat ramp. And there were some other cars parked there, so I felt safe about parking my car there. So I thought that I would need a couple hours and to make the trip. And I needed more than that. But so I put the canoe in and started paddling. And, the tide comes up and down, and it's really shallow, and it's really a maze coming through all these little islands. So the sunset, there were some other people fishing, and I wasn't sure where to go. I approached some people on a fishing boat, and I was like, "Can I get some directions?" They're like, "Yeah." And so, "Where's SpaceX?" They kind of pointed, to these buildings over here. So the beautiful sunset. There were dolphins, tons of birds. There were fish jumping all over the place. I kind of thought that maybe one would jump into my boat. And there was some moonlight, some clouds. I got, so when I kept on thinking, oh yeah, I look on the GPS, like, oh, I'll go here. And then like, it wasn't really a good place to go. And before I knew it, I was right here at the SpaceX facility. And I kind of resigned myself because the sun set and it was dark. I was like, oh, I guess I'm not going to make it there tonight. I'll have to go there tomorrow. But like, I just couldn't find a good place to put in until finally I was at the end of the road at SpaceX. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to, and I had to drag my canoe. So underneath the boat, there were tire tracks and the tide was going out and I was bottoming out. And so anyway, I had to just drag the canoe like, I don't know, quarter mile almost. So finally at about midnight, I got the, everything set up and got in bed. And at 6:30, there was a rainstorm, and I've got my Cocker Spaniel with me, and he woke up. He had never been in a tent, certainly not in a rainstorm. So, anyway, he finally went to sleep, and I went back to sleep. And then at 7:15, a SpaceX guy, I think it was a SpaceX guy, woke me up, and I got the rain fly. He couldn't see me, so I'm sitting there in my underwear in the tent, and this guy's like, "Hey, what are you doing here? How'd you get here?" And I think I answered his question satisfactorily, but he told me to beat it.
But yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough to be seeing the pictures, and where your tent is, it's just unbelievably close. I mean, you can see the hopper and because I mean, this is hours after SN4's blown up, right? So it's still a smoldering mess right in front of the picture in front of your tent. I mean, it's absolutely incredible.
There was like a methane torch. I mean, there was a flame. You know how an oil refinery, I'm in Houston, there's a lot of oil refineries. Like they'll have these little flame out things. So there was this flame. And I think it was just, I would imagine, I'm guessing, that they have some methane boil off or something. And something was on fire. That surprised me.
Yeah, well, I think one of the reasons why SN4 blew up is the methane piping underneath that that fuels the actual thing. So yeah, there obviously is some kind of I've seen the sort of flame on the that thing. But I mean, what an epic thing to do. I mean, I love the fact that you've kind of almost given up. And then you've pitched your tent right by the place. I mean there was
no better place, so
I'm kind
it was easier to paddle than to slog off the shore.
Well, I'm kind of thinking, do I put this out on the podcast? Because I can't help feeling it's going to encourage people to do like a silly, insane thing like you've just done. I mean, it's such a heroic bit of paddling.
Well, I think that people have kind of lost touch a little bit with getting outside, and I invested in a canoe and some camp gear, and space exploration. I mean, exploration. It's all about exploration, and I think that people who are into space exploration should also explore the Earth. Remember, who was it? Was it Helen Bean? he got back from the moon and he landed in the water and he looked around. I said, wow, it's a beautiful place. Oh, no, it was Michael Collins. Yeah. And he was talking about the beautiful blue ocean. And so I really think that people who are fans of space exploration, if they're not knowingly fans of camping and getting outside, then I think that there's probably part of everyone that wants to get outside. But I think if you really like exploring the universe, you should explore the Earth.
Yeah, do you know what? I've never really equated the two, but yeah, I certainly grew up reading things like Shackleton and stuff like that, and going camping. You know, I've always gone camping and exploring. So yeah, maybe there's something in that. I never really thought about it. But yeah, explorers. Yeah, people into space are explorers. But yeah, I mean, I'm assuming it's okay for me to mention that, of course, that you're also a big wig at one of the sort of greatest space companies there is around at the same time as well, at NanoRacks. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I am not my activities today are in no way associated with my employer.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
The views that I express are my own.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, God, maybe I get him in all sorts of trouble. I don't
know. You know, it's kind of crossing the streams a little bit.
Yeah.
You're welcome to put on a podcast. I am not sure. You know, one person on a tent, maybe they're fine with, but like if suddenly it becomes a pastime,
yeah, well,
to camp out.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, because I've never seen anything quite like that. I've never seen that. It was just that moment when your picture of you in your tent came up on the Discord, and I was thinking that is just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was like,
I feel like I've discovered the Northwest Passage. You know, like I came under cover of night. You know, when the tides were such that I was able to get somewhat close.
Yeah.
And, I really feel like I got to see something special here because of the explosion and the wreckage and the fact that I was able to get here, you know, and even the timing of it all. You know, I'm not sure that this is a, often replicatable experience.
No, you've really smashed it. I mean, we were all jealous on the Discord before while you were driving down, but the fact that you've had such an adventure, that is just absolutely superb. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and you've always been a brilliant contributor as well to the Discord. So yeah, you're an all-round legend. Well, I must get you on to talk about NanoRacks at one point because they are what an epic company that is. So I must get you on.
Sure thing. That'd be great.
If you really want to come on, and talk about NanoRacks properly. But I just thought we've
got a lot of interesting stuff in the hopper.
Work out my own space adventure now. Not that there's much going on in
sounds great
in England.
Cornwall.
Well, yeah, I could. Yeah, I mean
Cornwall.
I can sneak. Well, I've already climbed up the Goon Hilly radio dishes and stuff like that, which was epic.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think we're going to see a space launch there for some time, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. If you plan a trip to Texas when the tides are up at nighttime, I'll take you out in the canoe. We'll see how close we can get.
Oh yes. That's a very good call. Do you know, I'll tell you what, I've been out in one of those canoes like you've got, and the moment the wind gets up, it's almost impossible to sort of get anywhere. I remember being in a panic about it because it was like, oh my God, I'm actually going to get stuck here.
Yeah. Well, I got a decent canoe and it was kind of loaded down. And this area, you know, like I said, it's kind of like a maze. And so that knocks down the waves. The water's very calm where I'm at. There is a bit of wind. I was worried though. I thought, man, what happens if when I need to get out of here, you know, the weather's not good. But I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's actually crazier than you think. There's a lot of those things. Well,
I mean, I'm close to civilization. Honestly, I could walk over to Highway 4 and get an Uber if the cops will let them through.
Do you think? I was going to say, do you think the Uber guy is going to be okay with you strapping your boat on the roof rack?
I might get one. Well, yeah. Thank you very much for calling. You know, as you know, I'm a huge fan of the show, and I'm flattered that you.
Oh man.
You know.
That's really
hopefully
cool.
People connect more. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, we'll definitely get you back on. Well, now I've got your phone number. You've got no choice.
The Interplanetary podcast is alive.
There you go, Jamie. Is Jon?
How good's the hat?
Is Jon now not your favourite person in the universe?
I think he might be. That is incredible, Jon. Yes.
Get in,
Matt.
Yes.
If somebody wants to join Jon,
yeah, I know you can. You can speak to Jon. You can speak to Jon regularly.
Patrons, how do you do this?
You can just go to www.interplanetary.org.uk or go straight to www.patreon.com/interplanetary.
Matt, this has been emotional. What are you up to now? I'm off to eat some quark soup. What are you doing?
I'm going to write an acoustics lecture and give it in a moment.
And give it
to a bunch of students who, get this, students in lockdown, they demanded a module. They want to do more learning. This is like more learning. It's extraordinary.
Hashtag more learning. There we go.
Hashtag more learning. So yeah,
well,
I'm gonna do it.
God bless you, people. Stay safe out there, and remember, look up at the stars. They're looking down at you.
Keep looking up. Jamie, by the way, did you manage to see the dragon chasing the ISS?
I didn't see it, no.
No, I didn't manage to get to see it either.
I didn't see it. Did anyone see it? Anyone listening see it? Get in touch.
Yeah, a lot of people in the UK did manage to go and see it, including Tim Peake.
Oh, yeah,
which must have been quite cool for him. I mean, he must
Incredible
be. I wonder if Tim Peake's excited about his chance to go up on a Falcon 9 soon.
Well, I think he must be. I was looking at his Twitter and he was all over it.
So yes,
all over it, mate.
Yes. So hopefully we're going to see Starliner join soon as well, and a Long March 5B join soon, and
big time,
and India joins soon with their GSLV Mark III. So hopefully we'll see a whole raft of new human spaceflight coming online, and of course. Well, let's not. I think the next big one has to be SLS. Jesus, that's going to be exciting if it happens.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, Jamie.
Yes.
I'm going to love and leave you.
Okay.
And I'm going to do this.
I'm fine with that.
Bye, Spot Cats.
See you soon. Bye.
Next week for more fun in space.
Bye.